that democracy only works when we are arguing about policies, not arguing about what's true. I think that, again, TikTok is unique in its relationship with the PRC government. Russia, it is clear, there's ample evidence that Telegram and other Russian channels are being used actively to spread a narrative that is friendly to the Kremlin. I think here too, we're all looking for simple, clear answers, and simple answers don't exist. In free societies, the government isn't them, the government is us.
To start, I want to ask what are your main goals of your visit here in Moldova, and how long will you stay, and who you will meet with?
Well, Olga, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you. I appreciate the opportunity to have this conversation. And I'm in Moldova for a couple of days. I have the opportunity to meet with many members of the Moldovan government, the business community, and civil society, including the National Security Advisor, the Foreign Minister. I visited just now CyberCorps, and I'll see many others while I'm here, the Election Commission, STISC, and several other conversations as well with the Cybersecurity Agency and others in the digital space. The objectives of the visit are pretty simple. My boss, Secretary Blinken, refers to Moldova as a small country with a large heart. He's been here twice now, alongside the USAID Administrator, Samantha Powers, and our Ambassador to the United Nations, Linda Thomas-Greenfield. And so, in combination, these visits from senior US officials are intended to make very clear how important our partnership with Moldova is, our gratitude for Moldova's support of Ukrainian refugees since the further invasion of Ukraine 2 years ago, Moldova's efforts to find alternate pathways to get Ukrainian grain to market during the war, and to look ahead to upcoming elections here in Moldova, and to do everything we can in partnership with the Moldovan government to ensure that those elections are free and fair and representative of the will of the Moldovan people.
But what do you think, how we can ensure that elections are fair and square? Because even the United States has very unpleasant experience we all know about with Cambridge Analytica and Facebook. And in Moldova, of course, we face a lot of disinformation through social media. A lot of politicians financed by Russia are using different social accounts. How our government can ensure that everything is legal?
I think there are a handful of things that we all need to do. And when I say all, I mean democratic societies all over the world, including Moldova, including the United States. We need to ensure the greatest possible degree of transparency in the process. Democracies only work when the process is perceived by the people as being legitimate. And so clarity and transparency throughout the process of the election, throughout the tabulation of votes, is essential. I think another principle is good cybersecurity. We need, again, that gets to ensuring the integrity of the process. Even if we're using paper ballots, there are going to be times when the data itself is being stored digitally, and we need to have confidence that that data is free from manipulation. We also need to ensure that the social platforms that you mentioned are not being used to spread disinformation and misinformation. We in the United States and also citizens of Moldova have been subject to foreign malign influence operations originating in Russia, among other places. And this is one of the challenges of the 21st century. How do we strike a balance in free societies between freedom of speech and ensuring that our citizens have freedom of expression, and also recognizing that democracy only works when we are arguing about policies, not arguing about what's true. And so I think this is one of the defining challenges of our time. I don't think there are any simple answers to it, but we free societies around the world need to grapple with this, and we need to do it together.
But the United States already came to the big discussion about TikTok, for example, and shutting it down in general. And as I know, it generated a lot of debate among the users in the United States, even among the content creators who are not politically involved like at all. They just consider it as a violation of freedom of speech. So how the government can explain to the people what they are really doing and for what, because it sometimes can be subjective.
Yeah, I want to make a few things clear about the status of TikTok in the United States. First, the U.S. executive branch, the White House and the president, initially banned TikTok on U.S. government devices. And the executive did that because of the unique relationship between companies that are based in China and the PRC government. Data privacy doesn't exist in the PRC, and Chinese companies are required to hand over data to the PRC government anytime the government asks, without any kind of judicial or legislative oversight. So it's a unique kind of relationship between the PRC government and Chinese technology companies. I made clear, have made clear many times publicly that I did not think that the US executive should take any action on TikTok more broadly in the United States. What has happened in the United States is our Congress, our legislative branch, has required TikTok to divest. So ByteDance, the parent company, a Chinese company, either needs to divest TikTok to non-Chinese ownership, or there could be a ban in the United States. So it's not a ban, it's a forced divestiture in order to decouple the technology company from the government.
What do you think, should Moldova somehow use this kind of experience? Because we also have a TikTok, which is used by not only very young people, but for people of elder ages who are the most active voters, for example, in Moldova.
I think we have challenges across the platforms. I think that, again, TikTok is unique in its relationship with the PRC government. And that's happening, look, in the context of a no-limits partnership between China and Russia. Their words, not ours. Russia, it is clear, there's ample evidence that Telegram and other Russian channels are being used actively to spread a narrative that is friendly to the Kremlin. It's advancing the Kremlin's goals around the world. And those are different from other social platforms that are not connected to governments, but that can still be used to spread information that is either wrong or is intentionally manipulative. And so I think the surest thing that any of us can do really is twofold. First, responsible governments around the world need to flood the zone with true messages about what they're doing, about their goals, their policy goals for their people. And then second, we need to ensure that that people themselves have the ability to communicate and have their voices heard in an open, fair, transparent way.
It's been a huge discussion among the Moldovans because for the past 2 years, maybe you've heard that several TV stations were blocked and several websites due to their sponsorships from Russia or coming from not very legal politicians, but still they find ways to reach to the people to get messages where we want them to go. But still it generates a discussion about censorship and about the trust to the government. So how can we ensure that how can someone trust that the government are doing it for the best and not, for example, to win elections themselves?
Yeah. Look, I think here too, we're all looking for simple, clear answers, and simple answers don't exist. I think there are many aspects of this that we need to keep in mind. First is, I do believe strongly that in free societies, we need to, it is possible to draw a distinction between differences of political opinion domestically Moldovan citizens of every political perspective have a right, have an obligation, in fact, to share their point of view as voting members of this society. That's very different from manipulation by outside government actors. There's a distinction there between domestic political discourse, which should be robust and it should be across the full spectrum of the issues, and intentional manipulation of public opinion by an outside actor. That's something that I think most reasonable people can agree on. And governments then need to strike a very careful balance between pointing out that foreign influence, exposing it for what it is, and taking action where necessary, while also retaining a full commitment to free speech domestically inside their societies, even when elements of that speech may be against a government or its policies. So I think we try to draw a very clear distinction between domestic political discourse and foreign interference.
But I'm afraid that in Moldova, this line is not so straight and clear, because even at the moment and when we speak here, several Moldovan politicians are in Moscow, and they start their presidential campaign from Moscow. So it's kind of a tricky to divide, because they are Moldovan citizens. One of those persons is the administrator of Gagauzin autonomy. Evgenia Gutul is in Moscow now too. So it's hard to divide.
Certainly.
What's internal, what's external?
Certainly. Well, look, we all have the benefit now of 2 years, more than 2 years, of close-hand observation of Russia's conduct in its unprovoked, unacceptable, unjustified invasion of Ukraine. And the near constant war crimes, unprovoked violence, right here, very close to where we're sitting. And I think that one thing that should be abundantly clear, not because I'm saying it, not because the Moldovan government's saying it, but simply people should be able to look around, to read the free open media, to travel around Europe. And I think you can see very clearly that there's a pathway to European integration in the context of the European Union that is a path towards economic prosperity. It's a path towards the equal treatment of all people. It's a path towards free expression. And then there's a regressive and authoritarian path that is represented by the Kremlin and current Russian policies, starting the largest land war in Europe since the end of World War II. And so the war in Ukraine has cast a very dark cloud across Europe and the world. We have a saying in English that every dark cloud has a silver lining. Perhaps one of the silver linings in this dark cloud is that it has made the choice quite clear for people, and particularly for young people in societies like this one.
For young people, I agree that for those it's a question for Moldova. But still, you mentioned that the main thing that government should do is to ensure transparency. How do you think is transparency really possible during the wartime? Because of course Ukraine has its goals in this war, and our government can't disclose everything they do. As I'm questioning this, I know that you have personal experience from Afghanistan and Iraq, and you also know that even personal experience from witnesses can differ on a personal level. So it's tricky even for people who are there to deliver very straight information. So is this transparency possible during the war times for the government, for the people in social media?
So, Olga, I actually believe that this transparency is most important during wartime. And of course, there are going to be aspects of specific military operations where there's going to be a degree of secrecy in order to protect the safety or the lives of the people involved. But yeah, you mentioned my personal experience. I fought as a Marine in Afghanistan and in Iraq. And in Iraq, I had a journalist embedded with my unit, a reporter from Rolling Stone magazine. And he wrote a series of articles about what we did. They won the National Magazine Award, which is the highest award for magazine writing in the United States every year. He turned them into a book, and he turned them into a miniseries on HBO. And so, yeah, I have personal, firsthand experience with the relationship between the press, the media, and the military in wartime. And again, it comes back to being citizens in a free society. In free societies, the government isn't them, the government is us, right? These are government of the people, by the people, and for the people, as we've said historically in the United States. And so it's precisely during those circumstances when transparency and accountability are most important. And it's not easy. I don't mean to say that it's easy, but I think it's at moments like this one that the work of a thriving free press in Moldova is most essential.
I agree with you here. But have you already had a chance to receive like a big picture of the situation in Moldova? How ready is our government for the upcoming elections and referendum? Because even for the last 2 years, we had a lot of governmental websites shutting down due to attacks, telegrams of the ministers disclosed. As journalists, as citizens, we don't feel very secure. So I wonder, what are your impressions?
I've had the privilege now of meeting with the Moldovan foreign minister in the United States, meeting with him here in Moldova, and again, as I said earlier, meeting with some of the key people responsible for the cybersecurity of the Moldovan government and the digital security of the election. And I have full confidence in the capability, the capacity of the Moldovan government to conduct this election in a way that is free, that is fair, that is secure. Is that a guarantee against meddling, against interference, against disinformation? No, of course not. I, in this role, work with governments all around the world, and from Latin America to Europe, to East Asia, to Africa, and a lot of that work is on election security. We in the United States have an election this fall, and my trip this week is not with some of my counterparts who are not traveling, because instead they're staying at home because of the importance of securing our elections. So this is something that we know from firsthand experience in the U.S. There's never a guarantee that something as complex as a national election will go off without a hitch, but I have full confidence, and I know the U.S. government and our embassy here in Moldova have full confidence in this government to conduct an election that is free, that is fair, and that represents the will of the Moldovan people.
But what do you think are the main areas of challenge for our government?
In cybersecurity in particular? I think foreign actors could launch a denial of service attack, a distributed denial of service attack on election day that makes it impossible for people to vote. And those DDoS attacks could be targeted in certain precincts, certain areas where more voters are inclined to be supportive of certain points of view. So I think that that's possible. I think that it's possible that hackers could get into government, the email accounts of government officials, and could dump online the contents of emails that could be embarrassing. If my government email were dumped online, it would be embarrassing, because you're having conversations about things that you need to be able to have free and open exchanges about, but they're not intended for public consumption. And so, one can imagine many things that could happen. But I think actually, you know, the biggest threat is always what we refer to as failures of imagination. Anything that I can think about and that we can talk about here, by definition, is something that we are going to guard against. But what about the things we're not thinking about? Those are always, there's an endless number of ways for malicious actors to get creative and to try to create mischief.
Especially now when the artificial intelligence services of all kinds are spreading very, very fast. So how do you think, does any government in the world have capacity to win this race?
Listen, we've been working very hard on this in the US, in my role, for the 2 years since the release of ChatGPT. Artificial intelligence is going to change a lot of what happens in our workforce, of what happens in our public discourse. The challenge of deep fakes, of near undetectable fake video, fake audio. And so there are steps that we're taking, certainly, in order to try to protect the integrity of those AI models, to make sure that they don't return the most dangerous results around things like, you know, making bioweapons or building cyber weapons. But still, all of us, every free society, is going to have to grapple with an information space where all of a sudden our citizens are bombarded with audio and video that you can't quite tell if it's true, if it's real. And I think the thing we need to do there is public education. Most of us as individuals, as humans, psychologically, overestimate our ability as drivers. We all think we're good drivers. We're not all good drivers, of cars, I mean. I think we also overestimate our ability to detect these deep fakes. Somewhere subconsciously, we all think, oh, I'll be able to tell. I'll be able to tell if it's real. And that's actually not true. So an important role for governments in a moment like this one is to ensure that people, our citizens, our voters, know that these manipulated images are out there and that they're quite deceptive. And we've done this successfully before. We did it with helmets. Nobody used to wear helmets riding a bike or a motorcycle. We did it with seatbelts. Nobody used to wear seatbelts in a car. We've done it with smoking, where there's at least when people are choosing to smoke now, they're doing it knowing the risks and the dangers. And so I think all of us need to think about public education to our citizens about the dangers of AI in the context of elections.
In the short term, how we can prevent this? Because the public perception, as you already mentioned, is let's say a little bit slower than the development of the new technologies. Even our government can't step up with it. So how about people from the villages, Moldovan, for example? How we can communicate with them, especially with older generation?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, in a democratic society, we have to have faith and confidence in the intelligence and the wisdom of our citizens. In the aggregate, overall. We might have one or, there's somebody here or there where that may not always feel true, but in the aggregate, we have to believe in the wisdom and the intelligence of our voters and our citizens. And again, it is not for me to comment on one Moldovan political party versus another. Moldovan citizens will make that decision on their own. With respect to the European Union and a referendum on EU membership, again, I think the answer is clear. We have now, more than half a century of empirical evidence on the European continent that that European integration is the path to prosperity. It's the path to individual liberty. It's the path to kind of the people, individual people realizing their full potential in a way that is prosperous and peaceful. And there, all people really need to do is look around them and make their own judgment, their own decision based on what they see. I don't think they have to rely on social media for it.